Hey, this is Ricky from Mandala Studios. Welcome to the workshop. Today we're doing part 3 of making a latex fungus mask, and that's the casting and painting. So to start with, we're going to cast the mask. So we wet out the mould, just put some cold water in it, swill it around, get the whole surface a little damp, pour it out, and we're ready to pour in latex. So for that, we're going to pour in some 60% solids latex, a little bit in, just swill it around to allow it to pool into the details, then top it up, and then we're going to leave that there for an hour. Bang it a bit to get rid of any bubbles. Bit of clay underneath to level it out, and then just give it a time to dwell. Once it's dwelled and cured and dried, we dust it with a little bit of talc, and then peel it out carefully, snipping with scissors where we need to not rip it. Got to be a bit careful to pull out all the bits from inside the mushrooms, because if there's a bit that's not quite cured right in the depths, that'll be the bit that rips, and that'll be really annoying. Once we've got all that out, we just trim it round, use a sharp pair of nail scissors, cut it to shape. We're going to cut up and around the nose bridge area, round the bottom of the jawline, around the back of the head, and then cut out the eyes. We want to make nice smooth cuts, try not to get any jaggedy cornery bits. And there we go. So then we're going to mount it onto a balaclava. So for this we've taken a white lycra balaclava, we stretch it onto a polystyrene dummy head, then brush latex onto the balaclava, brush latex onto the inside of the mask, then leave them to dry until they become touch dry and use it like a contact cement. I'm sponging the latex inside the mask while Leah's brushing it onto the balaclava. I could brush it just as easily, but I had a bit of sponged hand. Then we carefully tease it on. I like to half invert the mask, position the eyes and bridge the nose, and peel it on. Then we seal around the back of the mask again with latex just to get a nice tight seal, and sponge over it so we don't get any brush strokes. And we leave them to dry for a little while. Once that's dry, we check it's all done, squeeze down the edges again, because that contact adhesive effect from the latex will still work at this point. Then we're going to go into some base painting. So for that we mix up some white, tiny little bit of buff titanium paint in some latex, give it a good stir, and then spray it over the mask. We tend to spray onto the mask bit and a bit back onto the balaclava, but not all the way, because we want the stretch to still work to allow it to balance onto the head neatly. Then we start to mix up some ink washes. Just put some various layers of brown. I left these very loose and runny. I wanted to get some drip, some movement in the surface of the mask, try and create some form, because it's very sort of plain, smooth, mushroomy texture mask of the whole thing with not too many wrinkles. So I wanted to add some life to it, so I let the ink washes sort of run down to try and create a kind of mouldy, fungusy effect in the paintwork, rather than just the mushrooms being the only fungal part of it. Sponge off any bits that I don't like as well, but you can see it's just running nicely down the side there. I'm just doing this with antelope brown FW ink mixed with some alcohol in a little tin foil cup I make. You see I'm just adding more drips around the eyes. Then I add a bit more ink to the mix to darken it up. And then another pot of alcohol so I can use it to touch and make things move where I want it to move. And now I'm just going up underneath the sides of the cap with a darker colour. And we'll repeat that process, being a bit more careful this time to apply the darker ink drip runs in the same space as the lighter drip runs, so it produces the same sort of flow. I'm also going in around the stalks a little bit, and occasionally I'm adding a few bits of ink in the crease line between the mushroom cap and the face of the mask, just to add some little points of detail. We'll go back there and airbrush them and get in again later as well. Now I'm just adding a few splashes of ink off the tip of the brush. I liked that, so I decided to go in and do that some more with some more speckling. So again, we've mixed up some alcohol and some ink and just put it on a brush that's got the bristles cut at a bit of an angle to get different amounts of ink flick. And we just speckle that over the surface because I thought it would look nice. Then going over the surface again, we're going to dry brush some bits to pick out the details on the gill structure and add some highlights to the mushroom caps themselves. We're just drying that off as we go because the ink in the recesses of the caps was still a bit wet. And just a light dry brush just to kick back the darkness on those stalks, particularly in the gills, so that everything looks a bit more poppy. It also allows me to go over some of the stains underneath to make it look like it's underneath the surface a bit, so it doesn't look like the wet's on the surface, it looks like the wet's running through the substrate of the mask itself. And there you go. You can see the client added some big bits on the head. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.